is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Hello and welcome into another edition of Three Ma. I am John Kurtz, joined by my trusty friends as always. Derek Young from K-State Online, Cole Manbeck, former beat writer for the Manhattan Mercury. Plenty of Christmas spirit being brought to the table here today on National Signing Days. K-State has inked its latest recruiting class, and they have done so with the backdrop of, I gotta say, I love the backdrop of the 2024 class being put on the old, basically the old cat train videos. That's the graphic that they're using on social media this year. It looks like the old cat train videos that make me wax very nostalgic about the good old days of K-State football under Bill Snyder. But, you can get nostalgic if you knock down some 360 vodka or some Ben Holiday bottled and bond bourbon from our friends at Holiday Distillery as well. Hey, holidays are coming up. Nothing better to have for the family. If you got family coming in, than to pour them some Ben Holiday bottled and bond bourbon or some 360 vodka. Go out and support our friends at Holiday Distillery, who are great K-State folks who support our pod. So please show them some love as well. So we sit here and record right now. K-State has signed its entire class, which is good news. 14-member class officially for the Wildcats here. Smaller class on National Signing Day this year, but that is to be expected. And I think late surge, both with some guys getting a 4th star on different recruiting services, and obviously K-State taking in a really big junior college defensive end in Malcolm Alcorn Crowder here have helped bolster the class as of late. Seeing this note, and I'll give a shout out to my guy Hazen, who made note of this, but K-State will sign 8 of, he's listing 15, so my bad, 15. 8 of 15 players rated as a 4-star on a major recruiting service, one being a preferred walk-on, which that's something that we'll certainly talk about here, so I think that factors in there to pushing it out to 15. But all in all, DY, you're the one who's followed this class more closely than anybody. How do you assess, what is your high-level takeaway of the 2024 recruiting class for the Wildcats?
Quality over quantity. That's probably how I would just justify it at this point. I think you probably hit on all of your needs, besides 1 or 2 glaring ones that can still be addressed through the transfer portal or other means, because I think they still have work to do at wide receiver and nose guard. But in terms of everything else, I feel confident about what they've done. It's interesting to me. No high school defensive lineman signed. I think that might not be a mistake, but that kind of is glaring to me, to where I probably would have felt more comfortable had they got one. But in this day and age where the transfer portal is such a resource, I guess you can go classes without doing so at certain positions. It just still feels a little uncomfortable, but probably because the advent of the transfer portal and the frequent use of it is still pretty novel, right? So I think if they can do enough through the portal at wide receiver and nose guard or defensive line in general, you feel pretty good about where they stand heading into next year. But again, quality over quantity, as you said. Look, we loved last year's class, right? You had all those the in-state splash with Avery Johnson, Jordan Allen, Will Ancio, Andre Davis, Wesley Fair, probably missing a few that I shouldn't be. But this class, I believe, especially if you were to factor in the walk-on situation there with Navarro Shunke, the offensive lineman from South Dakota, actually has a higher star rating per recruit.
Offensive line was a big deal in this recruiting class specifically. And as you look at it, some of your best players in the class are along the offensive line. A lot of the headlines were driven by the recruitment of Grant Bricks, who was a top 100 recruit that ended up signing with Nebraska. But can't be forgotten that K-State got some studs up front. Gus Hawkins, according to the On3 consensus, is the number 305 player in the country and the number 21 offensive tackle in the country. He's a 4-star in the On3 consensus. Both On3 and 247 Sports have him ranked 251st and 245th nationally, respectively. And then Caden Massey, obviously out of Linden, the mammoth offensive tackle, number 511 player nationally in the On3 consensus, the number 29 offensive tackle in the On3 consensus. So as you look at those consensus rankings through On3, 2 top 30 offensive tackles in this class, and then Navarro Shunke, who's walking on, DY, like you said, is evaluated as a 4-star by multiple recruiting services, as the number 565 player in the country in the on-3 consensus, number 49 interior offensive lineman, number 2 player in South Dakota. Both 247 and ESPN have him as a 4-star. Each have him as the number 18 interior offensive lineman in the country. So you're bringing in some really good players up front, and that's not even to mention that Kyle Rakers, who's one of your lower-rated recruits in this class, chose K-State over reported offers of Nebraska, Iowa State, Missouri, KU, Oklahoma State, Purdue, Illinois, Cincinnati, Michigan State, etc. And then Ryan Howard, the brother of Will Howard, mammoth interior offensive lineman, 6'7", 320-pounder, had offers from West Virginia, Syracuse, Maryland, etc. So offensive line to me is kind of the big storyline in this class as you're bringing in 5 guys, 4 of them signing letters of intent, and then Navarro Shunke, who's walking on, is quite the steal in this class.
Now, some of these might, at least weight-wise, might not be updated, but you talked about that offensive line. I think it's a really good note to hit. And just in general, how about the size? Caden Massey listed at 6'8", 275. Ryan Howard listed at 6'7", 315. Gus Hawkins listed at 6'7", 280. Navarro Shunke listed at 6'5", 290.
These guys have the frames, man. They got the frames to build on to where they could, they are your prototypical size that you would love up front. And they can add weight and muscle when you look at especially Massey, Howard, and Hawkins.
Yeah. Sorry, John. I would just say in general, that seems to be, remember that one year Chris Klein at the signing day press conference, immediately after signing day, I think might have been his first one. It's like, we needed to upgrade the speed of this roster. And we've seen that kind of play out, because they always been hammering like the 20-mile-an-hour club, 21-mile-an-hour club. Like that was a big deal that they thought that they needed to improve the team speed across the board. This one felt like it's like we need to increase the team size across the board, because I just said that about the offensive line. And I know they don't have any high school additions, but you had Travis Bates coming in as a transfer defensive lineman from Austin Peay. You had Malcolm Alcourt Crowder, the junior college DN from Butler Community College. And those are huge dudes. That are at least a bit bigger than the defensive ends that are going to be outgoing. And you had taken account, you already had Uso Sayamalo, you added Chidi Obiizer and Jordan Allen at DN last year. And it seems like the focus, at least in the last year and a half, has been to get bigger in the trenches. Well,
and I would just say before I let John go here, also Easton Kilty, who we've talked about as well, transfer offensive lineman from North Dakota coming in, 6'5", 305-pounder, is ranked as the number 2 interior offensive lineman in the transfer portal, according to On3, the number 66 player, and the transfer portal overall, according to On3. So you addressed a lot of things with this class, because offensive line is going to be a big part of this team next year with so many guys departing. You're going to have Taylor Portier back, Hadley Panzer, Sam Hecht, who's played a few snaps as well, and then Carver Willis. But you're going to have to break in some new guys, and so they've addressed some things. Now, I don't expect anyone outside of Kilty in this class, and Kilty's obviously a transfer to play next year, but still, you've filled some holes up front.
You're talking on the offensive line. Nobody from the class to play next year. Yeah,
I wouldn't expect Massey, Hawkins. Would you, DY, any of those guys to? They're going to redshirt. Typically, they redshirt offensive linemen.
There hasn't been one true freshman offensive lineman that didn't redshirt. I guess maybe one that was Hadley Panzer, but he also gray shirted, so that was a whole different deal.
Yeah, I was just clarifying. Because Malcolm Alcourt Crowder, that may be a plug and play guy.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Right away. It's 6'6", 295, man. 6'6", 295. There was a lot of talk about Nate Matlack leaving the program, and it was because of schematically, he didn't feel like he felt that he fit really well in the 3-man front, because you need bigger defensive ends. He's obviously a guy that was not bigger and struggled to put on the kind of weight that you would need to be in that 3-man front. That's the total opposite of Alcorn Crowder is a huge dude and more of your prototypical defensive end in a 3-man front. The other thing that I would point out that I think will draw a lot of headlines here, and speaking to speed and skill positions, and now the Avery Johnson era beginning and trying to load him up with weapons, you've got 2 4-star wide receivers here in Trey Davis and Jacques Bradley Demps. Are we going Jacques? I don't. DY, I'm going to defer to you.
Actually, the pronunciations that Kansas State sent out today, I think it's Jacques.
Jacques. Okay, I like it. Jacques Bradley Demps. He is out of Texas. So is Trey Davis. Both earned at least 4-star designation from one recruiting service. On3 and ESPN both have Trey Davis as a 4-star. And it is On3 that has Bradley Demps as a 4-star. And, I think there was even a little bit of concern there because of the role that Kobe Savage and his family had played in the recruitment there, but K-State able to land him even with Savage leaving. So, look, for a long time, wide receiver has been a point of contention with me that it felt like they have not recruited very well at the skill positions, particularly receiver. And now, we're starting to see some improvement there. Keegan Johnson was a huge win out of the transfer portal last year, fending off the likes of Texas A&M and Notre Dame. Certainly Trey Spivey, we love the potential of him. We've already seen what Jace has been doing at receiver this year. So now you throw into the mix a couple of 4-star prep kids. That is another thing that really stands out about the class to me, that it seems to be you're significantly improving your ability to recruit at the skill positions.
Yeah, at least scoring on 3, 2 4-star commits there with the Jaquez, Bradley Demps, and Trey Davis. I really like Davon Rice. He might be my favorite in the entire class, maybe outside of a couple of those offensive linemen. Alcorn Crowder may be the most valuable one just because of how he fills a need and is a great schematic fit. Yeah, you're probably splitting hairs a little bit here, but I think Davon Rice is probably being undersold. You flip on that tape.
He's a running back, by the way. Running back, yeah. Davon Rice.
Rare, just a rare explosion, rare burst that I think maybe this offense was probably missing. I don't know. I mean, Ben Sinnott going to play on Sundays. I get it. In terms of just an explosive running back or an explosive wide receiver, I think Keegan Johnson can be that. I think Jace Brown's a good wide receiver. I don't know that explosive is necessarily the term there for him, and if you were going to describe him. It's not like he was beating guys over the top and outrunning anyone, even on the downfield catches that he did have. So I think Davon Rice gives you probably a certain skill set on offense that you might have been lacking this year, where I think the media were expecting that from Keegan Johnson, but he was so hurt that it never really unfolded or came to fruition. By the way, you mentioned Kobe Savage. You just committed to Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, look, Oregon, I know we got to go to break. Oregon was in Manhattan within 12 hours of Kobe Savage entering the transfer portal. Their defensive coordinator was seen at the chef with Kobe Savage shortly after that. So they were clearly made him a commodity. On the wide receiver front, Bradley Demps, you guys mentioned it already. On 3 specifically, has him as the number 276 player nationally in the country, number 46 receiver. And on 3 specifically as Trey Davis is the number 279 player nationally, the number 47 receiver, both top 50 players in the state of Texas, according to on 3 specifically. So some really good ads there. And now you just have to, they still need guys from the transfer portal at wide receiver, proven commodities. So they got to sign a couple of those. Maybe they will by the time you guys are listening to this. Maybe we'll see a surprise today, later or not, but still need a couple bodies at wide receiver that are experienced to help them.
Lots of experience with our friends at Home Field Apparel. Always a great transition into Home Field Apparel. You can do about anything with them because they are fantastic. 40 plus K-State designs that you can pick from at homefieldapparel.com. Lots of great old school logos. You can get the old Cats basketball logo, Cats script basketball logo if you want that for hoops. Got the old Copper Bowl shirt if you want to reminisce about K-State's first bowl win ever back in 1993 under Bill Snyder. All over the place. Sailor Willie, Cocaine Willie, however you prefer your Willie, you can find it at homefieldapparel.com. And you can get 15% off your first order by using promo code 3MA23. So don't ever say we didn't do anything for you. 3MA23, the promo code at homefieldapparel.com. They have 100 plus other teams as well to choose from if you want to mix it up and get creative. So go see our friends at homefieldapparel.com, and we are back in just a moment.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
All right, DY, I'm gonna throw this over to you now. What have we not hit on in this, again, relatively small class, quantity over quality? Actually, let's talk Blake Barnett, because I think that was one of the bigger storylines that K-State was able to hold on to him. The quarterback in the class, a guy who was recruited, obviously, by Colin Klein. He sticks around. Taylor Bratt went and sealed the deal when he was able to actually hit the road and recruit, because K-State obviously was down an assistant coach. He seals the deal on a guy who's been a fast riser. I think definitely would have had some options if he wanted to open things up. And 6'2", 205 out of Erie, Colorado. That's Colin Klein's stomping grounds, right? Colorado. Not only was he recruiting him, he's a guy that's from Colorado, where Colin was from. that was a huge win to be able to go keep Barnett coming in here to the program, a guy that has some real athleticism and I think has a lot of potential at QB.
Yeah, he's probably, and I still need to look over his senior film probably a little bit more thoroughly, but he's probably more athlete than quarterback right now. But when you say athlete, we're talking really an athlete. Very much. I mean, his track times are crazy. He can really jump. So he's kind of a freak athletically in that vein, but probably needs to come along a little bit further in the throwing quarterback department, and he'll have time to do so. He can develop it at a very comfortable rate and a very comfortable pace because of what Kansas State has in the quarterback room with Avery Johnson and Jacob Knuth. But yeah, hats off to Colin Klein for getting him in the fold, obviously. But Taylor Bratt really closed this one because when he went to Erie, Colorado for that in-home visit, the feel that I get is that Barnett was leaning towards not signing with Kansas State. Now, I don't know that it was necessarily any Power 5 competition that was driving that decision. I think it was more just that Colin Klein had left and he didn't want to play for someone that didn't recruit him. So Taylor Bratt really had to hammer that one home. At a 2 or a 3 hour in-home visit, he did that. So that was coming through in the clutch. And if that doesn't happen, Kansas State's kind of up a creek right now because even with Barnett, they only have 3 scholarship quarterbacks going into next year. If that didn't happen, you're only at 2 and it's, a disastrous situation. So Taylor Bratt really saved the day.
Yeah, you weren't going to be able to get a transfer to come in to back up Avery Johnson in all likelihood. That was proven. And then at the high school level, you've been scrambling to find another high school quarterback. So important to seal off and get Barnett to ink on paper. Again, Rivals just ranked him as a 4-star, the number 6 dual threat quarterback in the country. ESPN has him as a 17th ranked quarterback. On3 has him as the number 31 QB and the number 1 player in the state of Colorado. On3 consensus has him as the number 2 player in the Colorado. So that's a significant piece. I think, John, one thing and you tweeted this yesterday, and I think at least I'm in alignment for you. I don't want to speak for DY, but I think K-State very well could be better at defensive end next season than compared to where they were this year. We talk about that 3-man front, some of the concerns that guys like Nate Matlack had playing in that 3-down front. Brendan Mott talked about in his announcement pod on 3-Maw with Austin Moore that he's coming back, that he wants to get up, put on maybe 10, 15 pounds, get around the 250, 255 pound range at defensive end. So you have Brendan Mott coming back, but then you're bringing in a guy, an Alcorn Crowder, who's 6'6", 295 pounds, a guy like Travis Bates, DN transfer from Austin P, who they really like, who's 6'3", 265, and then obviously Chidi Obiizor, who's 6'6", probably going to be around 260, 265 next year at DN, and Jordan Allen, who's 6'4", probably right around 250 right now. We'll see where he gets to, but they're going to have more size and length at defensive end. It's more prototypical of what you want for that 3-man front.
Well, yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I'm with you. Some of that was because, and look, I mean, nothing against Nate Matlack at all. I'm sure he's right about the scheme that hampered him some, but I was always like a tad bit underwhelmed there. And Khalid Duke has been, I think, good and solid, but you always felt like there was the potential to be more high level, like a Felix, and never totally saw that. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel pretty good, and moving toward guys that are bigger bodies and better scheme fits. I come out feeling really good about where the defensive line is at.
And yeah, real quick on Alcorn Crowder. I mean, you already hit on him, but I mean, reportedly offers from Miami, USC, Florida, South Carolina, Mississippi State, North Carolina State, Minnesota, Cincinnati. He had 10 tackles for loss, 7 sacks this last season at Butler. Now, he played mostly defensive tackle, but Kansas State used it more as a defensive end. Number 21 JUCO player in the On3 consensus, number 4 defensive lineman. ESPN actually has him as the number 5 junior college player in the nation. 247 has him as number 20, and Rivals has him at number 17. So a big win for K-State in the not transfer portal, in the JUCO recruit rankings, because he was reportedly going to visit Florida at one point, ended up canceling that, and K-State locks him down and gets the mammoth defensive lineman from Butler. I think he's a guy too, and DY, you can weigh in, but I think he's a guy that gives you a little bit more positional flexibility. So in a pinch, if you need to, you could slide him down to nose tackle in a pass rushing situation as maybe a jet package. I don't know, but maybe can be also kind of a reserve like Javon Banks was at nose tackle, but primarily play D-end.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what they do at nose guard, how well they can fulfill that need the rest of the way, because you don't really have any signs that you're closing on anything, and they could be immersed unaware. So I don't want to like bash them too hard, but a little underwhelmed by the effort, or at least the effectiveness in recruiting on that front. And if it continues this way, then maybe it is the plan is to kind of alternate, behind Uso, at least you have some kind of a faction that, in addition to Damian Ilalio, you're talking about maybe Alcorn, Crowder, and Banks still put time there in the middle.
Well, yeah, that was one of the bigger losses, and I don't. You want to take a stab at pronouncing the name of the defensive tackle, the nose guard that they lost to Baylor?
Tonga Lelohea.
There you go. That was a disappointing one, because he was on his last visit was to K-State, right? They got the final visit for him.
Yeah, and he was K-State, Baylor, BYU. He picks Baylor. Michael Boganowski is Kansas State, Oklahoma. He picks Oklahoma. Grant Bricks, Kansas State, Oklahoma, Nebraska. He picks Nebraska. Jay Sean Ross, Kansas State, Alabama. He picks Alabama. Those are the four probably consequential misses. Now, obviously, a few of those hurt more than others just because of how well they recruited offensive line, for example. Like Cole pointed out, that Bricks doesn't become really that devastating of a loss. But those are the four misses that stand out because they were such high profile.
Yeah, Jay Sean Ross would have loved to have gotten him just because you don't really have a prep defensive end in this class. But
in terms of someone like Bricks, Boganowski, Ross, to be fair, like a guy like Caden Massey basically had an identical offer sheet and Kansas State got him. Yeah. So it's not to say they're losing every high-profile back.
And they signed one linebacker in this class, right? DY, we assume Jake Stonebreaker, who's the number 3 player.
2, Jake Stonebreaker and Boone Morris, who they flipped from GSA months ago.
Yeah, forgot about Boone Morris. Apologies there. Stonebreaker,
Boone Morris considered an Austin Romaine clone.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. DY, you want to talk? I mean, I know this is technically we're talking about signing day for the high school and JUCO guys, but Jordan Riley, pretty important transfer at safety for K-State coming in. If we want to talk overall about the position at safety, they also got Callum Barta out of Topeka, who was at one point a Nebraska commit. Thoughts about the work done there at safety?
Yeah, 3 safeties, because then they added Dante Strap Thomas as well on Tuesday night that they signed today. He's a junior college from Southwest Mississippi Community College as well. Defeated some group of 5 schools for that one. Really, that one kind of reminds me of the Kobe Savage recruitment. Not necessarily in style of play. I think he's a little bigger, although he's just as physical, but just the kind of how they were able to secure him pretty late in the early signing period against group of 5 schools. That's exactly how it played out for Kobe Savage. And a guy that maybe you're probably backfilling Kobe Savage with is a transfer from Ball State and Jordan Riley. And he has a lot more size than what Kobe Savage did. And I don't know if he's the jack safety or not, but I don't know. I guess my working assumption is based on his production already at the FBS level with Ball State, which he was very, very productive. I go in entering this spring thinking you have 3 probably penciled in starters that you feel good about at safety, and VJ Payne, Marquise Siegel, and Jordan Riley, with the depth behind him, starting with Colby McAllister. And you hope maybe you get some further development from guys like McKendry Steiger and Daniel Cobbs as well. Jack Faber has played a bit this year, 4 games before redshirting. So I like the depth at safety, especially if Steiger and Cobbs can come along. But I'm not going to blindly say that they've upgraded there at safety. And I think for that to come to fruition, there has to be a smooth transition for Jordan Riley, and VJ Payne needs to make a bit of a jump compared to where he was last year. But you probably feel comfortable about what you have in that back end at this point. And maybe you want another corner, but I know they like Justice James. You feel good about the starters there in Keaton Garber and Jacob Parrish. Can they get someone else to come along as well?
I know you mentioned, on Dante Thomas, look, he has a bunch of group of 5 offers, which some people may be underwhelmed from. But to your point on Kobe Savage, when they got him, they flipped him from North Texas, and his other offers, according to On3, were Akron, Eastern Kentucky, Gardner-Webb, and Incarnate Word. and he turned into an all Big 12 safety, and Oregon and Washington were seeking his services heavily as soon as he entered the portal. So I trust these guys when it comes to the secondary, especially.
To your point, that's what I was going to say, between Kobe Savage, even Will Lee, Julius Brent, Josh Hayes, Russ Yeast, Reggie Stubblefield. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on and on. So
yeah. So these guys,
Marquise Siegel, just last year. Yeah. I mean, there's almost 10 guys in the last 3 years that they've landed at the JUCO level or transfer portal in the secondary. Has there been any of them not hit? And I guess you're still waiting on Steiger, Cobbs, and Justice James a little, but
Tyler Delhomme you're waiting on, but he was a late addition and you don't know yet about him.
And all those 4 guys are still on the roster. If they didn't feel good about them, they would have been ushered out, just like the handful they have.
About the one last guy I was going to ask you about, DUI here, as we kind of make our way through this, and I agree with all of your thoughts on the secondary. I definitely trust them there, but you get a kid out of the Kansas City area, and John Price at running back, who I know we've already talked about, what you're getting in kind of the flash, the home run hitter out of Vegas there, but your thoughts on Price being added to the backfield.
That's your stomping ground. What can you tell us? Old Blue Valley kid, right?
Well, I'm Blue Valley West, man. You think I'm out here watching Blue Valley High?
I can't keep track of your guys' damn Blue Valleys. I'm up here in South Olathe.
Spring Hill.
Oh, yeah. Because there's more Olathes than Blue Valleys, I think.
Yeah. I can't keep track of all these.
There's only one. But you know what they say, Cole? There's only one. There's only one Spring Hill High School.
Okay, funny.
Blue Valley, Shawnee Mission, Olathe. It's just a bunch of directions, and you never who knows.
Yeah, why don't you just start talking Maryland again, John? You know what? John Price, number 52 running back at the On3 consensus. Rivals has him as the 12th ranked all-purpose running back. More of your physical type workload type running back like a DJ Giddens, right? DY.
Yeah, I don't get the sense that he's as big. Maybe a little bit more vision. I think he's more of a development.
Yeah.
Like, I think Davon Rice has enough pop and burst where in doses he can play in year one if that's what they need from him. I'm not sure that I would say John Price would be ready for that.
Davon Rice has to, one of those freshmen has to play next year, right? You can't just have Joe Jackson and DJ Giddens. If they don't land a transfer, it's going to be Davon Rice in all likelihood get some snaps, I would think.
Yeah, you're right. But I will say, how many snaps were given to running backs besides the 2 this year?
Well, Frias appeared in several games, right? Got a few.
Did he appear in several games?
He played against he was in against UCF because they didn't have Trayshawn Ward. He got some snaps in that game. Look, I think.
No, you're right. I'm just saying, like, the third running back this year barely played.
But to your point on Davon Rice, I didn't even get to hit on him. I love him as a recruit. I watched his film. He's the type of explosive guy that this offense needs. They were missing that guy that can be the home run hitter this year. And, whether it's them lining him up in the slot and getting him open in the passing game or just a play in the running game. A guy like him that's explosive, that averaged almost 12 yards per touch in his high school football career the last 2 years at a powerhouse in Bishop Gorman, is a terrific add to this class. And it sounds like he probably had a lot more Power 5 offers and attention than were reported. Kind of went under the radar. K-State snuck him in, felt good about it for a while, according to UDY, and gets him. I love that addition. And then John Price, probably a guy that's a candidate to redshirt and then develop.
Yeah, that the way that they handled the recruitment of Rice, where it was telling everybody to be hush-hush about it, I think speaks to what they think of him. But I'm seeing, too, K-State's listing John Price as JB Price. So are we going JB then? JB Price?
Sure. I never liked the name John anyway.
Oh, yeah. I never met a John that I actually liked. So,
You set yourself up for that one, buddy.
Yeah, I know that
it's funny.
There's a John that
I'm just going to call you JL.
One time there was a John that took my courtside seats away.
No, don't we? Okay. I will read the text messages on that thing. I will read the text
we don't need to go there.
And I tried to offer them to you and Brody not once but twice.
Hey, for our listeners, DY, you need to know this. I insisted to John if his friend didn't show up. I urged him to take Brody just to sit and watch the game with him courtside for the Nebraska game. and he was too nervous to sit with my son.
You can't, dude. You can't hand me a kid. We were right next to the court, man.
John, is that Michael Jordan meme? F them kids.
I mean, John was. Brody is easy. You guys know this, but John was paranoid, and this is probably fair, that Brody might have gotten a technical on the crowd.
Exactly. Like, listen, I've seen I heard him. What was he yelling after the game too? And trying to get us to put it on social media. Like, I just didn't want the kid running and everybody looking at me like, what are you doing? Like, you can't put me in charge of a kid, man. I'm sorry.
DY, he yelled something else out after the game on Sunday too. That was different. And he might have taken John over on Press Row to where somebody was sitting and said something. So it's probably for the best. But he really wanted to sit courtside. So he actually was totally fine. He was like, John, I'll sit with you. Take me. So
he was, after the game, he was like, you said you were going to come get me when your friend left. And I was like, listen, man, I'm sorry. I was too nervous, but anyway. Yeah.
Anyway,
shout out to our friend Garth. We much appreciate him.
Yeah. Shout out Garth for hooking John up. So,
Okay. Again, Garth, I will show you the text messages of how this whole exchange played out. It was Cole. Whenever I try to get Cole to give me some sort of a plan or like, what are we doing tickets wise or what are we doing? It's always wishy-washy up until the very last minute. And you can never like make decisions or figure out what's going on. So that was just par for the course once again there. But Cole, this is your last chance. I've really already given it away. So no, you can't have the ticket to Wichita State, but I offered Cole a Wichita State ticket that I was giving earlier.
Wait,
turned it down.
You gave that away?
Yes, I did, because you emphatically told me twice that you weren't taking it.
I thought I was going with you.
All right. We're ejecting on this. I'm hungry. I need to get some breakfast. Derek is completely uninterested. He has totally lost interest in the conversation.
Yeah.
Does anybody have anything else left to say about the signing class? Anything else?
I don't have anything else. Just want to wish everyone happy holidays. Happy holidays to President Linton, Gene Taylor. On behalf of Richard Linton, Gene Taylor, all of them, Coach Tang, wish them all a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and all of you. Appreciate all you.
Here's an idea. Should we start at the beginning of every podcast, since K-State is no longer doing this at Bramlage? Should we start every podcast by saying, on behalf of Kansas State Athletic Director Gene Taylor and Kansas State University President Richard Linton, we welcome you in to another edition of 3-Ma, so that people can just boo in their cars? Maybe we should start doing that since they took it out at Bramlage. She kind of liked that idea.
DY's checked out. He must be working a scoop on someone. Maybe someone.
He's totally done. Yeah, he's totally done.
Yeah.
All right. Happy holidays, everybody. We appreciate you. Oh, I was gonna say too, we're hoping to get. Can I say what we're gonna try and do on Patreon?
Yeah. We'll probably have part of that on KCSN too. Yeah. So
okay. Yeah. Well, Patreon.com/3Ma if you want first dibs at conversation with Taylor Bratt, bringer of the Cats, K-State's director of recruiting, who, as we mentioned, really helped do some yeoman's work in the latter stages of that after Colin Klein left. So we'll have a conversation up there with him. Patreon.com/3Ma if you want access to that. Plus the Discord where all the inside info is going. It's been a very, very hopping place here lately. So for Nick Springer behind the scenes, for our friends at Holiday Distillery, our friends at Home Field Apparel, Derek Young, Cole Manbeck, I'm John Kurtz. We appreciate you listening to another edition of 3Ma.